Ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. I'm your host, Stat, and very, very happy for another week to have been gone in the NRL. Now, let me tell you, it was quite the week, like every other week has been so far. Now, I don't like starting off like this, but unfortunately, I do need to once again. Now, the Sharks and the Dragons on the weekend had a minute silence for a rising star, Stevenson Upulasi, a 19-year-old kid who passed away in a car accident last Monday around the Heathcote area heading back from training. It's a very, very sad incident. Now, I won't sit here and talk like I've known the person because I don't, but obviously hearing about a 19-year-old kid passing away is obviously very sad, regardless of what background he is or what kind of career he was taking. Now, I know that he did start off at the Sharks and moved over to the Dragons. By moving over to the Dragons, he was looking to get into the 20s Dragons team there. Signed a 3-year deal, I believe. So just sending our condolences to the team, to the Upulasi family. Again, praying that God is with you at this time and you just look to God. So, look, let's get straight into this episode now, discussing the NRL ladder once again. And every week this ladder just keeps on changing. Now, on top sit the Penrith on 19 competition points. You got the top 4 completed there with the Storm on second, on 18 with the Eels 18, and there's a good 4-point gap between the Eels and the Roosters at 4th, who are on 14 points. Now, just outside the top 4, coming in at 5th is the Canberra Raiders on 14 points. Drop down to 6th is the Newcastle Knights on 13 points, while the Sharks and the Sea Eagles finish up the top 8 on 12 points apiece. Now, in 9th place is the famous West Tigers. They always seem to find their way down at 9th spot. So they're tied with the Rabbitohs at 10 points, at 9th and 10th. The Dragons sit at 11th on 8 points. The Cowboys, the Warriors, the Titans, and the Broncos again on the same amount of points of 6, which they did all lose on the weekend. And the mighty Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, no longer on 2 points, guys. We're on 4 points. So we're aiming to get out of that little wooden spoon factor there and just looking to make our way up to max 12th in the latter this year. So, but look, let's get straight into the episode that was, and let's get straight into the round 11. Now, the Eels 26 defeating the Tigers 16, and very entertaining game. Now, I thought the Tigers started off pretty well. They got that early error from the Eels, and then they went and got Luciano Lillo scoring the try off the back of a smart play from Harry Grant. Now, what changed the game for the Eels was the Regan Campbell-Gillard try, and mate, he has been so good this year, and I keep harping up on him and just how he's performed and how he's changed his performance and how he's changed his outlook on his playing career from when he was at Penrith to him being at Parra now. Now, a couple of things that really highlighted the clash for me. It was a very intense game, and that Mitch Moses chip and chase was awesome. Now, the last time I had seen that was back in 2017 when I watched him play for Lebanon against France over at Canberra Stadium, and it was just smart play. You know, Adam Dwyer, he wasn't where he was meant to be at fullback, and he read the play really well, kicked on second tackle, no one saw it coming, and it was very smart, put the kick over, regathered, scored, very simple play, very risky play, but one that pulled off really well. Now, Tigers played pretty well. They still have a lot of errors, and they still made the usual conventional errors, about 14 errors in that game, so they still need to work on that, but to keep it to 26-16, you know, the Eels got onto a bit of a roll on, and look, as I said, Tigers were in the lead 12-4 until that Regan Campbell-Gillard try, where he broke the line and made the break and got past Leahy. Reminded me of when Payne Haas scored that solo try as well, when he broke a few tackles and kind of cut out the fullback and then stepped back in. So, very, very similar play there, and it was good to see, you know, the Eels get back on top for this game, and Mitch Moses coming through and scoring that try as well. Now, a few things that I wanted to highlight. Now, Blake Ferguson. Now, that no try that he got disallowed, absolutely heartbreaking. I don't think I have seen a better no try disallowed than the one that Blake Ferguson put up on Thursday night. The way he had his body up in the air and had the ball planted down and his whole body was up, looked like some sort of praying mantis or some sort of weird animal, but it was freakish. And we're seeing a lot of talented superstars in the NRL that can score tries in a freakish manner, and that one for me took the cake. Unfortunate for Andrew Davey, who knocked the ball on in the play just before that. But for Blake Ferguson to go and back himself, you know, and you see that play in fast motion, I would have thought, man, this guy's dropped it. He hasn't kept that no way in the world, but it's the power of technology that we have, and got to see that slowed down, which was fantastic. Now, bit of a sour one with Russell Packer eliminating Ryan Madison completely out of the game with that sickening concussion. Ryan Madison had 6 concussions in 2018, so they've got to monitor him for this week coming up. But this would have been one game that Ryan Madison would have wanted to really play and really perform in. Unfortunately, Russell Packer, completely knocked him out, which was tough to see and tough to watch, but glad he's doing a lot better. And thoughts as well for Michael Cheekham, when he got hit and started having those seizures on the field, was really hard to watch. It was really hard to see. I can only imagine what his family would have been watching and seeing that would have just been freaking him out. But it's good to know that he got released from hospital on the Friday morning, and he's doing well. He wasn't named this week, which I'll get to a bit later, which is good to see. But look, the standouts for me, as I said, that Blake Ferguson no trial was just outstanding. But Reagan Campbell-Gillard, 23 hit-ups, 247 metres and 89 post-contact metres. Big numbers. You know, their forward pack killing it again. Junior Paulo, 21 hit-ups, 218 metres and 73 post-contact metres. So that was good to see from the men over in the blue and gold. Now, the one thing that I wanted to take from this game was Nathan Brown against Sean Bloor. Sean Bloor debuted on Thursday night and got into a bit of a niggle with Nathan Brown. You know, every time Nathan Brown ran at him, he was up for the challenge. It was the second time he ran at him, and Nathan Brown was clutching at his neck, and they ended up getting the penalty and got straight back up, which I don't like to see. I don't like to see players trying to fake an injury for a penalty, which we've started to see over the course of the last few weeks. And Nathan Brown got that ball again, went straight at Sean Bloor, and Sean Bloor just did the best he could to just lay him out. And what I loved about that the most was they kept it so intense on the field, but then the second that they called the time off and the game was full time, they came, they hugged each other, you know, they wished each other well, and that was so awesome to see. It was such a good battle, good personal battle in the last 5 to 10 minutes of that game. So, well, look, Tigers need to improve their ball handling skills. And Eagles need just to learn how to manage with Mitchell Moses' calf injury. He's got to manage that for the rest of the year, so Eagles need to be very smart and do it in a more conservative manner. So Eagles 26 to the Tigers 16. Now the Sea Eagles 24 defeating the Cowboys 12, and what a performance from Cade Cust. I mean, that is the best performance I've seen from him in a very, very long time. I think probably since he got into the top grade. They finally found a half that can complement Cherry Evans. And Cherry Evans was great too, scoring the try, line break, 3 tackle breaks. But what lifted it for Manly is, once again, having Adam Fanua-Blake come back from suspension really lifted their forward pack. Now, Martin Tapau, 19 hit-ups, 198 metres and 79 post-contact metres. But Adam Fanua-Blake, 17 hit-ups, 225 metres and 116 post-contact metres. That is huge. Those are some big numbers, especially on his return from suspension. And the forwards are doing so well at Manly at the moment. And it's just a battle between every club in their forward pack, because some of the forwards are just laying the foundation so well, which allows Cherry Evans and Cade Cust to do their thing. Now, it's unfortunate for Cade Cust with Dylan Walker named on an extended bench this week, but he's been playing so well. It's good to see Cust prove that he is the better half between him and Croker and solidify himself in that number 6 jersey up until Walker does come back. But look, I believe when Walker comes back, they'll push Cade Cust down to the 14 jumper. Now, the Cowboys, in Josh Hannay's first game as a coach for the club he played for, the Cowboys, just not good enough. Again, another bad performance from the Cowboys. The one thing that Josh Hannay did that was smart was drop Isan Masters, because he has been shocking this year, which I've called for so long, and finally came to his senses and dropped him, which was good. But the Cowboys are really missing Michael Morgan at the half. They're really missing that guy that can just talk in the field. They're missing John Asiata in the forward pack as well. Now, Josh Maguire and Jason Taumalolo can only do so much, but unfortunately, it's not enough. They've got a lot of kids that are rookies. You know, you got Hamilton Tabuai-Fidow, who was awesome. You know, that 70-metre break he made just before the game ended was fantastic to see. It was unfortunate they couldn't actually convert that line break and all that effort he put in that 7-metre break into points, being the last minute or so. But there are a lot of kids in the Cowboy system at the moment. They really need to pick themselves up. And now that they've got Josh Hannay there, they can obviously look to get the ball rolling to see how they can start maintaining some consistent performances. Now, it's still another couple of weeks away before Michael Morgan comes back, but Dejan Arce and Jay Clifford really need a lift, especially with Josh Drinkwater being injured as well. So, Seagulls 24 defeating the Cowboys 12. Now, the Storm smashing the Broncos 46 points to 8, and this is the second consecutive week that the Storm have scored more than 40 points. they've just been doing so well, this Melbourne. Just when you think they'll get beaten, they just don't get beaten. Cameron Smith winding back the clock. Last week I said he's just getting better and better with age, and he just keeps proving himself. Ryan Pappenhausen was fantastic. 20 runs, 272 metres. He's getting better and better in that fullback role. I find that he gets more involved when Cameron Munster's off the field. Unfortunately, Munster came off the field with a HIA, with a concussion, and didn't return. Played a good 50 to 60 odd minutes though. But the second he was off, Ryan Pappenhausen just changed the game. He was electric. As I said, 272 metres off 20 runs was massive. Couple try assists. A try for himself as well, which was awesome. Now the Broncos, man, that first half, I thought was the best first half all year. I thought they were really controlled. I thought they were really smart. Now, it didn't look like it when Adokar scored in the first minute of the game. And I sat there, thought, oh, here we go, another blowout. But they fought back and got to 8-6. And I thought they started to play some more simpler football. And again, it's just that curse in the second half. They're going at halftime. They're down 14-8. So they're still in the game. They're only 6 points down, but just not good enough. That second half, Melbourne came out with an absolute vengeance and just terrorised that whole defence. Now, we talk about the two fullbacks. Ryan Pappenhausen, 20 runs, 272 metres. Anthony Milford, 9 runs, 63 metres. It's pretty obvious. You can see why Milford didn't do so well. Now, he is having a few injuries at the moment. Now, he has hurt his hamstring, and he also apparently was always going to be ruled out during the week with that thigh injury, but they're running short on players. Tessie New out for the year with that wrist injury. But Milford wasn't up to scratch. He hasn't been up to scratch all year, so it's just been a case of stock standard for Milford. But the team need to do more. I mean, Payne Haas, 15 hit-ups, 167 metres and 88 post-contact metres, along with 30-odd tackles. What more do you want the kid to do? TPJ needs to be better. Offhand Gower needs to be better. I thought Patrick Carrigan was solid as well. He's been one of their best rookies coming through the grade this year. 17 runs, 180-odd metres. I thought he was great, but they need to lay that platform for the backs to do something. And I thought the one highlight from the first half from the Broncos was that tackle Darius Boyd made on Tuliasi Vunivalu on the sideline. I thought it was very inspirational. We haven't seen that type of defence from Darius Boyd in a very long time. And look, it obviously wasn't enough at the time, but unfortunately, the Broncos just need to figure out a way to keep digging deep and figuring out a way to start getting some wins. Now, the Roosters 18 defeating the Warriors 10. And look, the game was closer than I thought. Warriors started off well, got up to that 6-0 lead. But look, if there's one player I could pay $1 million a year for and have him in a heartbeat, it's Luke Keary. Every week, I keep talking about how good he is. I keep talking about, just how influential he is to the side. And he was the Iceman again. They were down 10-6 and Keary put in that grubber kick, came off a deflection, but regathered, scored. Got it. And he was just so good in organising their attack. And obviously, they had a very rocky start. Warriors got up with the third minute with the Ken Momalo try. But the Roosters laid down that platform. They laid the foundation for them to be able to do something, with the back line. And I thought Luke Keary was the main reason they won that game. They could have lost that game pretty well. I mean, Warriors were pretty solid. But I didn't understand. I mean, Warriors didn't have anyone go over 100 metres. Not one player scored 100 metres except Tohu Harris. And he got 107 metres. Now, their forward pack is really lacking at the moment. And Todd Payton has quite the task on his hands to get his forwards firing. I mean, one player that I just don't understand is Adam Blair. He's 35 years old, the most experienced one there, and he says he's playing out of his skin. Last week he made 5 hit-ups for 40 metres. This week he came off the bench, he made 3 runs for 20 metres. I mean, now Payton came out during the week and said if I could drop Blair, I'll drop him. But I will drop him even though there's no reserve grade. That's not good enough. The guy's played over 300 games. He's taking up $800,000 worth of your salary cap. And those are the kind of stats he's raking in. 3 runs, 20 metres. If you're not good enough, retire. If you're not good enough, pull the pin now. That's my opinion anyway. I mean, if you're going to keep putting out rubbish performances like that, especially being that experienced, being a former Kiwi international, that's not good enough. Now, the battle that I was very interested in seeing was Jared Hargreaves against Jack Hetherington. They put up quite a bit of a show. Now, like with Nathan Brown and Sean Bloor, this outcome turned out a little bit different. Hetherington really got under Hargreaves' skin, which I love to see. A young rookie kid couldn't get a start at the Panthers, come to the Warriors to help him out and get one over the top of Hargreaves. And Jed H doesn't back down from a fight. He ended up nailing Hetherington in that one of those runs off the dropout, ran straight at him. But what I didn't like was after the game, where Hetherington went to shake his hand. He's like, mate, get away from me. Don't talk to me. Don't cause trouble. Just get out of my face. It's not good enough. You're an experienced campaigner. You've been in the league for 10, 11, 12 years. And some kid shows you up one game and you're not even going to acknowledge him. Come on, it's pathetic. That's terrible sportsmanship. And that's the difference between Brown and Bloor and JWH and Hetherington. They bashed it out for 80 minutes or for however long they were on for. But then after the game, they shook their hands and went their way. Unfortunately for Hargreaves, Hetherington was kind of left hanging and trying to hug the guy and wouldn't have a bar of it. I thought that was a bit of a sour end to the game. I didn't like that. And I think Hargreaves would probably look back and regret it. But Hetherington has done so well for Warriors since he's been there, and he'll only get better from that experience. Now, the Sharks 28, defeating the Dragons 24, in a very entertaining game of footy, might I add. Now, I'm going to get into it with my rant later on about this bunker, which I'm not going to discuss right now. But Dragons lost that game by 4 points, and it was in that first try by Jack Williams. That wasn't even a try. But I don't want to focus on that right now. Sean Johnson is playing so well again, very consistent. But I wanted to talk to you guys about two particular players from Sharks that really stood out for me. Toby Rudolph played 62 minutes, 25 hit-ups, 244 meters, 77 post-contact meters, and 30-odd tackles in 60 minutes. That is monstrous. That is a massive effort. Royce Hunt, in 28 minutes, 20 hit-ups, 207 meters, and 80 post-contact meters as well. Those are some big numbers. These are forwards that are laying down the platform, laying down the foundation for people like Johnson to be able to run the mark and do what he needs to do just to get his side in front. And they were fantastic. I thought the Dragons fought back very well. The standout for me was Cameron McInnes, 68 tackles and 1 line break assist. That was huge. And Zach Lomax, 7 tries in the last 6 games. And that try where Ben Hunt kicked in the corner, caught it on the full, then kicked it for himself and scored. Man, that was beautiful. And Zach Lomax has been so good this year, finding himself at centre. And Dufty has been out of his skin at fullback. He's been playing so well. That flick pass to Lomax to score his second try was just beautiful. Look, the Dragons have been a lot better in recent weeks than they have been when they lost to the Bulldogs 22-2. And I don't know what McGregor's done. Don't know what kind of manoeuvres he's pulled there with Flanagan, but they've got him firing again. And they've got him playing very, very well. It was unfortunate that they lost that game. At moments, Sharks got ahead and then they caught up. Sharks get ahead again, they caught up. They even held the lead at one point. But they just need to maintain that. Now, they will have a different side with a different spine this week, which I'll get to later on. But it was a very entertaining game of footy. I thought, as I said, Dufty, Lomax killed it. They were fantastic for them. And for the Sharks, their forwards really stood out for me. So that was Sharks 28 to the Dragons 24. Now, the last game was Super Saturday. Raiders 18 defeating the Rabbitohs 12. And the Canberra forwards, once again, really laying that platform and doing such a good job and still winning games without their main man, Josh Hodgson. And it's been so good to see the Warriors that they've put in such a spirited performance these last few weeks. And they're fighting so hard and playing so well. And they're really there for each other. You can see that they play for each other. They're united together for that one goal, is for that comp. And while a lot of people seem to write them off, they just seem to keep performing. But the Rabbitohs, they're lacking that punch. They're not as good as what they used to be. And it's pretty alarming. You look at the back line of Alex Johnston, Dane Gagai. These are very, very good players. They had a few kids in, and I understand. I do know that they had Jackson Paulo in there. They had Corey Allen, who's played a bit of first grade. But I feel like their halves aren't clicking as much as they used to. There's a bit of miscommunication where Walker threw out that cutout ball to no one. And they really need to figure out what's going on there. But look, I thought Thomas Burgess was a very, very good game from him. 17 hit-ups, 181 meters, 62 post-contact meters, and 27 tackles. 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 But that run he made from the dropout and made about 30, 40 meters from, that was beautiful to watch. That was so good. Trying to carry his team as much as he could, and there was no try for like 20 minutes. In that last 20 minutes, Rabbitohs did everything they could to score, but the Raiders' defense was fantastic, which I've got to give credit to. Now, the highlighters for me were Joseph Tapine, off the bench, 17 runs, 170 meters, 59 post-contact meters, and 38 tackles off the bench is a huge effort. And Josh Papali, again, so good. 19 hit-ups, 148 meters, 61 post-contact meters, made 42 tackles and didn't even miss one. Now, the Raiders get a few reinforcements back this week, but they just keep firing. Now, it is so good to see that the Raiders just keep plugging in, keep working hard for each other, and make it happen. All right, now the Doggies, 18 defeating the Newcastle Knights 12, and my goodness, about time. About time we've actually played a decent game of footy. Now, Bulldogs entered the game with 91% completion, didn't have too many errors, which was fantastic considering the conditions were horrible and were absurd. Now, as I said, we played very well for only 60 minutes. Knights got a repeat set down our line, and I said, okay, they're starting to figure something out, and they're going to find us out. And then they scored that try. And then that last 20 minutes had me on the edge of my seat because I did not want to lose that game. We're up 18-0. Could have been 24-0 when Averillo dropped that ball. But we're up 18-0. And Newcastle, unfortunately, having lost Connor Watson and Andrew McCulloch, that is so hard to see. So hard. You know, and both season-ending injuries and creating more dramas for Adam O'Brien. But even when those two players were on the field for the very limited time they were on, Knights were very poor. They dropped the ball in the first tackle, or second tackle of the game. They're just lucky that the Bulldogs aren't such a great team to actually put points on the board. Or if we were actually a decent attacking team, we could have put 40 on them on that game. But they were very lucky. You know, they only played 20 minutes of a good game. The 60 minutes they played was disgusting. Errors left, right, and centre. Getting found out in defence. And Adam O'Brien is sick and tired of the inconsistency in his squad. And he'd hate seeing it. I mean, but for the Bulldogs, we'll take the victory. You know, we're 2 points away from 12th, which is the most exciting thing to see from the Dogs this season. And look, I thought Aiden Tomlin was fantastic. That's his best game I've seen in a very long time from him. 25 hit-ups, 201 metres, and 70 post-contact metres. Along with a try and 2 tackle breaks. I mean, that was just the icing on the cake for him. But one forward I keep forgetting to mention, Luke Thompson, has just been fantastic for us. You know, still finding his feet in our club. 17 hit-ups, 140 metres, 56 post-contact metres, and 43 tackles. It's a big effort playing 60-odd minutes. And we finally have that grunt in the pack where he'll just run hard and at all costs and it doesn't really care. But I want to touch back on Newcastle. Andrew McCulloch has been outstanding for them this year. To see him go down with a torn hamstring off the bone was very hard to see. Especially for Connor Watson, who's also just come back from that syndesmosis injury, and he ends up going down with his Achilles. It was very hard to watch. And I would have preferred to beat the Knights with a full squad. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. And the Bulldogs were good enough to take the win and to take a bit more confidence heading into their next clash, which was good to see. And obviously, finally get to belt out the team song, which was good to watch as well. And the Panthers 22 defeating the Titans 14. Now, that backline of Steve Crichton, Josh Mansour, Jerome Luai, Nathan Cleary, Caleb Aikens, who's been a fill-in for Dylan Edwards, Brent Naden, Dean Farre, I mean, they are playing so well. But one thing that I found in that game was the Titans actually matched with them most of the game. They didn't give up. And that was pretty good to see. I mean, they scored 2 quick tries, the Panthers. And again, Stephen Crichton scoring another try. He's on top of the try-scoring tally for this year. And Jerome Luai just keeps growing game by game. But the forward that did it for me was Isaiah Yeo. 23 runs, 170 metres, 56 post-contact metres, 33 tackles, with a try, line break, and 3 tackle breaks to go with it. A complete performance. He's actually been mentioned as a potential for State of Origin. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But he's been playing out of his skin this year, playing 80 minutes, been very, very good. Last year had a few injuries with his shoulder and a few concussions, but he's been firing this year. He's been so good. But the Titans, with the players that they have, I think they don't care. A lot of them don't care. They're waiting for 2021 when they get Dave Fafita and Big Tino comes in as well. But no Titans forward went over 100 metres. And this isn't the first time for the Titans. I think it's about the third time this year. And that's very, very bad. I'm surprised that Panthers kind of dropped off their game a little bit to only have to beat them by 8 points. Now, look, Nathan Peets came in and I thought he was pretty good. Shouldn't have taken him off when they did because he was actually playing really well. But, look, the Panthers did enough. Nathan Cleary, just, again, being very consistent, being very good, just allowing Luai to go and do his thing, and it's paying off for the Panthers, and Luai's been so good this year. It's so good to see. But, as I said, if the forwards lay down the foundation, the backs will roll straight off it. James Tarmo, 20 hit-ups, 184 metres, 67 post-contact metres. James Fisher-Harris, 21 runs, 158 metres and 56 post-contact metres. And that was in 50-odd minutes. They play out of their skin. And one thing to celebrate, guys, for those that have been tipping with me, we got 8 from 8 this week. Shout out to the Bulldogs for finally winning a game. Sick of getting 7 out of 8 and 6 out of 8 and some even 4 out of 8. So I'm glad we ride the wave together and we get to celebrate the little wins of 8 from 8. Now, news around the NRL world in this last week. This is massive. Now, a lot of re-signings, a lot of signings to different clubs. Let's get straight into it. Alba Hopewadi could be heading to the Dogs. Trent Barrett is a big fan of his and is looking to see if he can get him over to the Dogs as part of his recruitment strategy. Again, he's got a hands-off approach. He can't really do anything with the Panthers. So, Alba Hopewadi could be joining his brother Will at the Dogs next year, which would be interesting. Jacob Saifidi, the Newcastle prop, has re-signed for 2 years at the Knights. Has also said that he wants to play out his career there. And they're building something there, the Knights, and they just need to find that consistency, as I mentioned earlier. Now, Nick Kotrick finally put pen to paper with the Bulldogs on a 3-year deal, as well as Trent Barrett, both signing for 3-year deals. Now, Kotrick's deal is worth to be $600,000 a year to play in the centres, which I'm very happy with. I think it's a great signing for our club, and the fact that we actually confirmed that and it's all done and dusted is good to hear. Now, Jaime Sele has re-signed with the South Sydney Rabbitohs for 3 years. A big fan of his is Wayne Bennett and has played him in a few games this year, and he has been pretty good off the bench. And he's had a couple of injuries with his hamstring and shoulder, but he has been pretty solid from off the bench. It's good to see him land a new 3-year deal. Now, the big one, Sonny Bill Williams signing a deal this week with the Chooks for the remainder of 2020. I like it. Now, every fan is like, oh, Salvi Sombrero, and I can't fit him under the cap. I think it's a load of garbage. I think Sonny Bill coming to any team in the NRL is huge for the game. I even think that him going to the Roosters and to help those youngsters coming through is massive. His influence they would have, especially with the career that he's had in the NRL and in rugby union, has been phenomenal. So I'm all for Sonny Bill signing up. So the idea for him is that he'll land in the country on Thursday. He'll be in 2 weeks of quarantine. Once he's done his quarantine for 2 weeks, he'll be back for the clash against the Broncos in a couple of weeks. Play the last 4 games and then start getting ready for the finals. So it's a good little handy pickup for the Roosters, especially losing Victor Radley to that ACL injury as well. Now, the Bulldogs have agreed to release Corey Haruanara. Didn't want to stay with the club due to him feeling that the club wouldn't support him when he had been sacked. He signed a 2.5-year deal with the Canberra Raiders and has been named to play this week as well. While Jaden Okunbor has decided to stay with the Bulldogs, and he will be back in a few weeks' time, and I believe he's been back to training this week. Now, another re-signing, Josh Kerr, the Dragons lock, has re-signed for another 3 years at the club, and which is good news for the Dragons. Now, the Bulldogs, again, have re-signed Raymond Faitala-Mariner and Brendan Wakeham on 2-year deals, extending their contracts to the end of 2022. Michael Jennings re-signed for another 2 years at the Parramatta Eels, considering how well he's been playing this year, and they didn't want to keep him at all at one point. It's good to see him nail another 2-year contract and finish the career at the club. Now, pending an official statement, but I've been hearing that Tane Milne has signed a 2-year deal with the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and the Souths are starting to sign a lot of good kids and bringing a lot of good kids there, which is good to see. So he'll be making his way over next year. We're just waiting for an official word from the South Sydney Rabbitohs to confirm that. And once it's confirmed, you'll see it on my page. Now, the big one, David Fafita has finally decided what he was going to do and has agreed to join the Gold Coast Titans on a 3-year deal, a $1.25 million deal a season. It works out to be about $3.5 million, I believe. I could have the calculations wrong, but a big signing for the club and a forward that they need, a game breaker. But with the price tag, I think is too much for someone who's played less than 40 games. I think it's a big pay packet for someone who's not that experienced. And as I said, the sky's the limit for Dave Fifita. He's a very humble kid, and he plays out of his skin when he's injury-free. So it's a good pickup for the Titans, and they're starting to build something really good there, and hopefully that we can start seeing them back in the finals. Now, the Parramatta Eagles have decided to loan Daniel Alvaro, the prop, and the winger George Jennings over to the New Zealand Warriors, with the Warriors losing 4 players over the weekend in King, Vini Yayawa, Ignatius Parsi, Ken Mamalo, and Dave Fusatua. I believe they are good pickups for the Warriors, definitely to help them get through this period and give these guys some game time as well. And I rate both of these players. I think they are very good players, and Warriors will only benefit from that. So hopefully they bring a bit of spark and a bit of experience to see how the Eagles are going into that Warriors squad. Now, the West Tigers confirmed the signing of Asu Kapawa. Now, he has signed a 3-year deal. He tried to get a release earlier this year, Asu, and the Roosters knocked it back due to the injury to their centre for that ACL, Billy Smith. Now, once they heard that Sonny Bill was available again, they decided to release him to the Tigers, which have signed him on a 3.5-year deal, which is good to see. Now, Bryce Cartwright and Shannon Boyd are looking to organise their releases from the club this week. Now, Bryce Cartwright wants to get released due to him heading back to Sydney, being homesick. He's still got another 2 years on his deal, or 1 or 2 years. And Shannon Boyd is looking to retire, and as I mentioned a little while ago, looking to just be a farmer and retire from the game altogether. It'll free up some cap for the Gold Coast Titans, and it'll give them some more money to start looking for bigger players to bring to the club and to start making them a force to be reckoned with. Now, Luke Keary is looking to re-sign with the Sydney Roosters on another 3-year deal. He's currently on a $700,000 at the moment. This deal will take him to $925,000 a season, $2.8 million deal for 3 years. Now, as I said earlier in the podcast, I would have him as $1 million a season player, even 1.2. Just what he's experienced. He's won so many grand finals for, one at Rabbitohs, one with the Roosters as well, back to back, and such an influential player. Now, there are clubs out there that could offer 1.2, 1.3, even exceed 1.4 if they're that desperate. But I can't see Luke Keary finishing his career anywhere else, especially with him and the relationship he's got with Nick Politis and Trent Robinson and the combinations he's got on the field. And they're a team that are going to be in the top 4 for the next many years to come. So it's a great signing by the Roosters, and they're going to chase up James Tedesco after that and put down a contract for him and bump up his pay packet as well. Now, Jack Hetherington, as I mentioned earlier, he has been extended for another 4 weeks with the Warriors, which is good to see. They'll get to keep him. He's been very good for them as well, so it's good to see that. Now, still on the Warriors, Jeff Tuvey was sent an email by Cameron George, the Warriors CEO, that he will be not required or not a candidate for the Warriors role due to not what they're looking for. I don't know who they're looking for. I think it's a pretty stupid decision not to even consider or even sit him down for an interview. And the guys I mentioned last week, Ben and Shane Walker, have also been rejected for the role as well. Warriors have decided to move into a different direction. I believe that their main fish that they're trying to catch is Paul Green, the recently released Cowboys coach. And look, I think he'll do well there, but he needs to be able to organise the salary cap, needs to be able to bring in some decent players and build a club from the ground up and hopefully win him another comp. So that's what Warriors are targeting at the moment. And if Warriors do go down that road and grab Paul Green, then there's a good chance that Todd Payton will return to the Cowboys and potentially take over in a full-time job there, with also Josh Hannay looking to put down his resume to coach the club as well. Now, the Dragons are ramping up their bid to sign Adam Elliott on a 3-year deal. Now, as I said, Bulldogs didn't give him a great deal before he got injured. A bit less to what he was on. I think he's on $500,000 at the moment. Dragons are happy to pay whatever they can to get Adam Elliott. They believe he'll be a phenomenal addition to the side. It would be sad to see him go based off this year. I believe in previous years he hasn't been that great, personally. I don't think he's been what we've been looking for. But this year he has stepped it up. Don't know if it was just because of another contract or just because he was just a shining light in a pretty dark squad. So, look, I will do my best to keep him just for another year or two. I think Trent Barrett could help him out and bring a lot of firepower to him and get him to play a similar role to Isaiah Yeo. We're just yet to see that. And the last thing is Bulldogs finally have a major sponsor, which is good to see. Laundry Hotels have signed on for 2 years. They own about 600 hotels across Australia, I believe. They're huge. They're a massive signing for the Bulldogs. And we finally have a major sponsor, which is good to see. Now, I need to go on a bit of a rant here. And I believe I've been told that I need to be doing this every week, which I've yet to know. But I just need to go through two things. The first thing is I hate when players take a dive. I hate when I see them take a dive. 2 weeks ago, Josh Morris took a dive against Rapana in like a couple of minutes to go to try to award his team a penalty. Mate, you're not in Hollywood. This isn't some sort of acting. This is rugby league. You know, we're not playing soccer. I thought it was ridiculous to say that, but even last week when Nathan Brown complained about his neck from that crusher tackle and got the penalty and got straight back up and ran it back short ball. Like, man, I love Nathan Brown he's a champion guy, having spent a bit of time with him. I just don't like that. I don't like seeing players fake it to get something go their way. I absolutely hate it. I don't want this game to turn into soccer. And that's one of my topics done. The second one, I just don't understand, is this bunker. Now, in that Sharks versus Dragons game, I discussed that Dragons lost by 4 points over a try that got allowed, which shouldn't have been allowed. It was very, very clear that Jack Williams did not ground that ball and that Matt Duffy got to the ball first. They seem to call it every week. I don't understand how it's a $2-3 million setup for the bunker to have every camera angle. However, they still get decisions like this wrong. Now, Peter Vlandis came out and he said we should make the game simpler. All right, perfect. And we've done that. We've gone down to one ref. Let's make it even more simple. Why don't we scrap this bunker, have one video ref like we've always had back in the day, and if the video ref can't decide what to do, give it to the ref to make it. Ref's call. If the ref calls it, that's it. We play on, we move on. And you can't captain challenge that. That's what they should bring. We have this bunker with this setup, $2 million setup, $3 million setup, and all these different camera angles, yet we're still making these wrong decisions. And yeah, they come out, oh yeah, look, that was a bad call. But it doesn't change the outcome of the game. The NRL needs to seriously look into this and see that these mistakes can't be happening week in, week out. With the technology we have, it's not good enough. That is not acceptable. And when I saw that Jack Williams try, like initially from the one angle, it looked like, yeah, he scored that try. All Fox Sports did was put it onto a different camera angle and Duffy grounded the ball first. I mean, if we have this technology, why aren't we utilising it? My opinion, go back to how it was 10 years ago. You got one man in the video ref. He's the only going to be that's the only guy video reffing. Then you have the ref on the field, the one ref. Then what you do is if they can't figure out what the call is, give it back to the ref. Ref's call. Ref will call it. Try, yep, no try, no try. All right, they can argue, but that's it. Ref's call, we move on. I don't understand. I can't see how with all this technology we're still getting these common mistakes wrong. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But look, that's my rant for that. Now let's get straight into round 12. And we're looking for another perfect round, guys. Now, we have the Dragons coming up against the Rabbitohs. A few changes made to the squad. Halfback Adam Clune and Trent Merrin off with HIAs won't be playing this week. And with a short turnaround as well, they're going to miss a week. Ben Hunt will go straight back to halfback. Cameron McInnes will go to hooker, which will push Jackson Ford moving off the bench to starting lock. Jordan Pereira, again, comes back from suspension on the wing and will replace Jason Saab. And Tarek Sims will come back from a suspension as well, which will push Fumaono to the bench. And the new addition onto the bench is Tristan Saylor for, I believe, his first game of the year. For the Rabbitohs, Latrell Mitchell will return from suspension at fullback, pushing Alex Johnson over to the wing and Corey Allen out of the side. Liam Knight and Patrick Margot will return from injuries on the bench in place of the debutant Jack Johns and Jaime Sele. Now, with this game, with the way it's going, even though they've reverted back to their old formation, I do believe the Dragons will take this game out by 8 points. I don't see much in this game. I think Dragons will take it out in a close one. And with Rabbitohs lacking in the backs at the moment and lacking that firepower, I think the Dragons will do enough to cause some issues for the Rabbitohs there. So I'll have Dragons by 8. Now, the Tigers will come up against the Warriors. They get a few additions into the squad. Alex Twal will make his return from his knee injury at lock, and Luke Garner will come straight into the back row after missing a week due to concussion. Oliver Clark will start at the front for the suspended Russell Packer, and Michael Cheekham, as I said, not playing due to his sickening concussion on the weekend. Sam McIntyre will drop from the forward straight to the bench, and Matt Eisenhuth is out of the squad altogether. And Thomas McKaylee, who has been pretty solid for them, will return from a knee injury on the bench. And Josh Reynolds has been named on an extended bench after finishing up that suspension as well. Now for the Warriors, Fusatua, David Fusatua, Ken Mumalo, Ignatius Parsi and King Viniyayawa are no longer available for selection. They are now in New Zealand. Patrick Herbert will start on one wing with George Jennings making his club debut for the Warriors on the other wing. Now, Dan Alvaro will replace Isaiah Papali'i in the forwards. Off the bench, and will be playing in the forwards. Now, Wade Egan will return from injury as well and will take the place of Chanel Harris-Tavita, who has come up with an injury there. Again, I think the Tigers will be too good for them, and I do think this could be a bit of a blowout. But Warriors did play exceptional last week and a lot better than they have been in previous weeks. So I'll say Tigers by 14. Tigers by 14 this week. Now the Broncos will take on the Sharks, and more changes for the Broncos. Brodie Croft has actually been ruled out with a shoulder injury, one that he battled early on in this year, meaning Anthony Milford will return to 5'8", Darius Boyd will go to fullback, Herbie Farnworth will go to the centres, and Richie Kenner will go into the wing. Jake Turpin will return at hooker, and so will Isaac Luke. Isaac Luke will be on the bench, and Turpin will be starting. Ethan Bullimore, who was rumoured to be heading to the Raiders on a loan deal, will no longer be heading there due to the signing of Corey Harawira-Naera and the return of John Bateman this week, which I'm about to get into. And Corey Pay, Tyson Gamble, Jamil Hopewadi have been dropped for this game as well. Now the Sharks, Josh Dugan will officially play his 200th game this week after being ruled out last week due to a hamstring injury. He will replace Bryson Goodwin. Now Connor Tracy will replace Chad Townsend, who has injured his calf and is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. At halfback, Brighton Nikora will return from suspension in the back row. Toby Woodruff will again start at lock, could revert back to the bench with Jack Williams starting in at lock. We're yet to see. And Siosifa Talakai will move from the starting side back onto the bench. Now for this game, Sharks are playing too good football at the moment, and I believe they'll get this one over Brisbane. I'll say Sharks by 16 for this game. Now the Roosters will take on the Gold Coast Titans. Now Brett Morris has had a back injury, pulled up at training. He'll be missing for the next 3 to 5 weeks. Ryan Hall will take his spot in the only change for the Chooks. For the Titans, Keegan Hipgrave will return to the second row with Sam Stone dropping out of the squad altogether. And Sam Luzoni will replace Jai Whitbread on the bench. Are the only 2 changes there for the Titans. I still think Roosters will be too strong. Every time they have someone out, they seem to figure out a way to just play decent football again. And with the side that they've got, it's very hard for the Titans to beat them. So I'm going to go here and say the Roosters by 20. Roosters by 20. The Cowboys will take on the Raiders this weekend. Now the centre, Connie Lumulu, will return with Mitch Dunn going back to the bench. And Jordan McLean will finally return from that calf injury at prop. And Francis Mollo will go to the bench as well. Ruben Cotter and Hampton will have been dropped down to the reserves. Now for the Raiders, Jordan Rapana will replace CNK, Chance Nickel Klokstad, who's out for 1 to 2 weeks with a fullback injury. He'll be playing fullback. Curtis Scott has been recalled into the centres, and Nick Kotrick going back onto the wing. Now John Bateman will play his first game this year, and he will start in the second row with Hudson Young moving to lock and Kyle O'Donnell getting dropped for this game. And Corey Harawira-Naera, will make his club debut and will play in jersey 17 and will take the spot of Harley Smith-Shields. I can't go past Canberra on this one, especially with Corey Harawira-Naera off the bench and John Bateman starting. It's time to get those reinforcements coming back bit by bit. I reckon they'll top the Cowboys and beat them by comfortably, maybe by 18. Now the Seagulls will take on the Panthers, and I believe the game of the round for myself. Now Sean Kepier will replace Jack Gesicki on the bench, and Dylan Walker will be closing in on an injury comeback with him being named in the reserves. So Sean Kepier for Jack Gesicki into the side, and that's it for them. The Panthers, Viliama Kikau will return in the back row. Tyrone May will drop back to the bench, and Matt Burton is onto the reserves. And keep an eye out for those Panthers fans out there. Apasai Coruscant has been named on an extended bench. Even though last week the head of performance there came out and said that he'll need a couple of weeks for his elbow to kind of recover a lot better than what it is at the moment. He's been named on an extended bench, which will be interesting to see. Now this game, it can go any way. I think both teams are playing fantastic. I think it will come down to the forwards this game. The Penrith forwards have been fantastic, and so have Manly's forwards. I can feel an upset coming. I do feel that Seagulls could cause an upset here. And I could gonna go Seagulls by 2, pending any late changes that happen. So that'll be my tip of the week, Seagulls by 2. Now the Bulldogs will be taking on the Eels Sunday 2 p.m. with Tim Lafai making his return to the club in jersey number 3, replacing Kieran Holland at centre, which is a very good choice. Jack Cogger and Suaso Su will join the bench and will take the place of Brendan Wakeham and Renouf Tomaga. Now, Brendan Wakeham didn't have the best game in the 15-minute spell he had. Kicked the ball out of the 4 and couldn't get the Dogs out of pressure. We're not almost winning that game. And Tomaga, I believe, has hurt his shoulder, which is why he won't be playing this week. And for the Eels, Kane Evans and Oregon Kafusi with a broken hand and the calf injuries respectively come back onto the bench and will replace Brad Takairangi and Stefano Utoikamanu. Now, the Bulldogs were taking a lot of confidence into this game, beating the Knights, considering they were a top 5 side. And I think with the Eels getting Mitch Moses back, they're going to start putting out very consistent performances. And to see Ryan Madison named as well is interesting. I'm never going to go against the Bulldogs. And to those that did, sucked in. Because the 1 week you didn't go against the Bulldogs and we got an 8 from 8 week. So I was sticking by my Bulldogs. I'm hoping they can cause an upset this week against the Eagles. And the last game of the round will be Melbourne Storm taking on the Newcastle Knights. Now, for the Storm, Marion Seve will be taking the place of Brent Curley, who has broken his hand. And we're playing in the centres. Tom Eisenuth will take the spot of Paul Momirovski, who is out for the season with an injured finger. And he'll take his spot on the bench there. For the Knights, Chris Randall will be starting hooker, play only his second game for the year. Now, he'll be there due to Andrew McCulloch ripping his hamstring off the bone and Connor Watson doing his Achilles. Now, Sione Batalia has also injured his ankle, which will be out for 6 weeks as well. Aiden Garrell will be starting in the back row, and Josh King will join the interchange bench, along with debutant Phoenix Crossland. Again, I think Melbourne will just take this game out. They will make it hard for the Knights to compete. And it'll be an interesting battle this week, Callum Ponga against Ryan Pappenhausen, which will be a clash I'm looking forward to see. But I do think it will be Storm by 16 this week. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of League Chat with the Stat. Now, as I said, we are on Facebook, so keep sharing that page around and keep sending in your videos and photos to where you're watching my podcasts. I've put up a few this week on Facebook, and it's good to see that. And as you know, we put these weekly on YouTube, so remember to like, comment, share, subscribe to the page, and let's get this the next biggest show up out there. So I do appreciate your patience again. Appreciate your time. As I said, we'll let you know if any changes will be made in regards to how we'll be moving forward with the podcast. Send through any emails you want to send through to leaguechatwiththestat@gmail.com. And as I said, if you'd like to be a guest, we can look to arrange to get that organised for you. It's been a while since I've had someone to be sort of a company to me, which has been pretty sad, but it's all good. The show rolls on and we still keep going. So thank you so much again. Enjoy round 12 and we'll see you guys next week.